You might recall from Sal's video on the German and Italian empires that Germany was not unified as a country until the year 1871. And so now I'm going to try to fill in some of those gaps and see if we can't walk ourselves through the unification process and see exactly who was involved and what happened to make all of these different German states unite into one. And to do that, we'll have to rewind all the way to 1815. And 1815 is the year that the Congress of Vienna takes place. The Congress of Vienna, which is a meeting, a conference of Central Europe's top diplomats after the defeat of Napoleon, or close to the end of Napoleon, when they come together and they say, well, look, we've had this series of wars with Napoleon for the past 15, 20 years. We don't want any more wars for a very, very long time. And how can we do that? One of the ideas that they came up with was to redraw the boundaries of these Central European nations so that no one country was more powerful than all the rest, as Napoleon's France had been. So they draw a country known as the German Confederation, and the German Confederation is made up of 39 German states along with Austria, which back then was also considered a German state. Austria is down here. It's its own empire. And so we'll fast forward just a bit to the early 1860s, and the German Confederation's still going pretty strong. Now, by the 1860s, another state has also proved itself as a leader in the German Confederation, and that's the state of Prussia. Prussia is right there. And Prussia's king, whose name is Wilhelm I, that's a picture of him, has hired a new statesman in 1862, and that statesman's name is Otto von Bismarck. Otto von Bismarck is a master politician, master diplomat. He's a very smart man. And his one and only goal is to make sure that when Germany does unify, when all of these German states do eventually come together, that Prussia is on top. Now, his first chance as the Chancellor of Prussia comes in 1863. His first chance comes to show that Prussia is indeed this military might in the German Confederation. And that opportunity arises when Denmark invades two disputed territories called Schleswig and Holstein. And as you can imagine, the German Confederation, along with Prussia and Austria, weren't really happy about that. So they attacked and they took back Schleswig and Holstein. And as part of the peace treaty that these two states, along with Denmark and all the rest of the German states, signed, the Peace of Vienna, Schleswig went to Prussia and Holstein went to Austria. Now, this Peace of Vienna was pretty good for a couple of years until 1866, when the tensions between Prussia and Austria went to an all-time high. Prussia and Austria each wanted to be the number one head honcho in the German Confederation, but didn't want the other one to be number one. So these tensions come to a boiling point, and Bismarck has been training his army. He's been equipping his army. He's been buying them new cannons, new weapons, and he knows that Prussia now has a stronger military than Austria. And he provokes Austria into declaring war on Prussia. And now Prussia has the perfect opportunity. They march into Austria in this Austro-Prussian war, and in only 7 weeks, Prussia has almost marched through half of Austria. And they're close to the capital of Vienna. But Bismarck is a very smart politician, and he knows that he needs Austria as a friend in order to counter the power of neighboring France. So Bismarck cuts a deal with the Austrians, and he says, okay, so in exchange for our stopping the invasion, you're going to become our friend again. And that's essentially what happens. Austria and Prussia surprisingly become allies again. And Bismarck has once again proved that Prussia is number one. He's proved to Austria who the boss is. And Prussia now kicks Austria out of this German Confederation. Now I want to pause a bit and talk a bit about Bismarck's way of playing politics. Now, historians through the ages have really marveled at Bismarck's skill in getting what he wants. So they've classified Bismarck as a master of what they call realpolitik. And realpolitik is quite literally, it means realistic politics. realistic politics. And it's an approach to power that was really pioneered by Bismarck, that was to get as much power as possible by aligning yourself with whoever was the enemy of your enemy. So the enemy of an enemy of Prussia became a friend of Prussia. And that's what Bismarck did with Austria. So he knew that Austria could be used to counter the influence of France. So instead of defeating Austria completely, he pulled Austria back up and became friends again. Now, he was this master of realpolitik, and his way of playing realpolitik really helped Prussia become the number one country in the German Confederation, and it eventually helped unify all of Germany. Now, we're coming back after the Austro-Prussian War. In 1867, this long-lasting, or this 50-year-old German Confederation has dissolved. It's dissolved. And in its place, Bismarck creates the North German Confederation. And that's all of these German states that you can see in red. And the North German Confederation, they become allies. And Bismarck lies low for a couple of years, waiting for his next chance to play some more realpolitik. And that chance comes in 1870, when there arises an issue with Spanish succession. All the way to the west in Spain. Spain is looking for a new monarch, and they've offered the king of Prussia, the German king Wilhelm I, the opportunity to recommend one of his relatives to become the new Spanish king. And as you can imagine, over here, the French aren't really happy because they also want their share of influence in Spain. And so they send their ambassador named Count Benedetti, and the French ambassador meets with Wilhelm I, who happens to be at his favorite vacation town of Bad Ems. And that's where the next big thing will take place in the German unification process. Bad Ems is the resort town where Wilhelm I has this little chit-chat with the French ambassador. And after this chit-chat, the French ambassador has basically demanded that Wilhelm I renounce the German right to the Spanish throne, that he withdraw the consideration of his relative to the Spanish throne. And after their conversation, Wilhelm I sends his advisor Bismarck a telegram from Ems, known as the Ems Dispatch or the Ems Telegram, to tell Bismarck exactly what went down with the French ambassador, what the French ambassador wanted. But Bismarck sees this as an opportunity to play some more realpolitik, because he knows that if he can provoke war with France, that will provide a common enemy for all of the German states. And because realpolitik means an enemy of your enemy is a friend, then that means all of the German states will unite, including the southern German states, and they'll attack France together, because it's in their common interest to see France defeated. And so Bismarck rewords the telegram, and he rewords the transcript of the conversation before releasing the contents to the press. As you can imagine, the French were pretty mad, because the way that he edited the telegram, he made it sound like Wilhelm I had actually insulted the French ambassador. That made Napoleon III, Emperor of France, pretty darn mad. And Napoleon III declares war on Germany, or on the North German Confederation, as well as its leader, Prussia. However, things go according to plan for Bismarck, because the southern German states see, now they've got a common enemy, as the Prussians and the North Germans do, so all of the German states unite to attack French together. That's what Bismarck wants to happen, and that's exactly what goes down. And they have a quick, decisive war known as the Franco-Prussian War. It's basically over within a matter of months. Napoleon III is captured after a few months, and the French suffer a humiliating defeat at the hands of all of the Germans, who are now united against the common enemy of France. And what makes it even more embarrassing is that in 1871, all the German princes, along with their armies, arrive at Versailles, the palace belonging to Louis XIV outside Paris, and a symbol of French power. And there at Versailles, they proclaim Wilhelm I, the King of Prussia, as the Emperor of a united Germany. And finally, after nearly a decade of playing realpolitik, Otto von Bismarck has finally unified Germany and kept Prussia on top of it all. And Bismarck would keep the peace in Central Europe after the Franco-Prussian War for the next 20 years through playing realpolitik. And that would go on until the death of Wilhelm I and the arrival of Wilhelm II, who would really change courses and later start World War I.